Were telling me about an audition for a part other than Gray.
Yeah, no, so I originally had gone out for the part of Adira, believe it or not. I definitely like agree that Blue is the perfect person for that role. I very much appreciate being like Gray and sort of just like the role that they created for me. A role that was pre-existing but was not like the character's name was not Gray. So they sort of shape shifted this character into what became Gray. And when they originally told me, they were like, okay, so we are not saying yes to you for Adira, but don't worry, we still want to have you on the show. We still would love to see you play this role of Gray. He's going to be a Trill. He's going to be, you know, sort of like Adira's partner in crime. And I just was fully on board. I was like, yes, yes, I would love to do this.
What did you know of Star Trek before you auditioned?
I had not seen Star Trek Discovery before being on the show, but I had just seen like little glimpses into the Star Trek universe here and there from my parents who were huge fans. Like they were watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, and like just they were such huge fans that it sort of trickled down to me and influenced my childhood a little bit. But nothing that I could say I like was the biggest fanatic that knew all of the, um, all of the different like alien races and stuff. I'm definitely more of a newbie when it comes to being a fan of the Star Trek.
Well, fans of science fiction know you from your other work. How does this compare to what you've done before? And I know that you grew into that role because you were growing up right before our eyes.
I really love how like I've been able to like exist just like as a trans person in different sci-fi universes, and just being myself and being authentic to myself. I think that is so impactful and meaningful to just because trans people exist everywhere. I mean, we've always existed and we've always existed everywhere. So of course we would exist in space. Of course we would exist in, different dimensions, different realms and stuff like that. So um, yeah, I am really excited to continue to grow up in front of people's eyes. I mean, even the difference between like season 3 and 4 of Star Trek Discovery, like I hope that you will notice like a big sort of like maturity and sort of like inner peace that I have developed into.
There's something interesting about the fact that you're making history. There's never been a recurring trans character on Star Trek. And now, double history, there's never been a trans actor in a recurring role on Star Trek. Tell me about what that feels like.
I mean, it feels incredible. I'm so glad that, me and Blue get to sort of like pioneer this trans representation into the Star Trek universe. And I can't wait to see how it progresses because, if there's a couple of us, then there's got to be more trans people 900 years in the future of, the Star Trek universe. So I think it's just opening up so many doors. And I really can't wait to see what the future holds for, trans people finally being able to see ourselves on screen and to be able to tell our stories. Just, yeah, I'm very excited.
Now, your personal look is much more androgynous than you might say the binary. Tell me about where you lie on that whole spectrum since you're he, they. Tell me about how you identify.
So I personally, as Ian Alexander, the person, the actor, I I would say that I identify fully as non-binary. I don't feel either male or female. That's something I've come to the realization of very, very recently, like within the past few months. I think it had kind of always been conflicting and like I had been questioning for a long time. But I originally had come out as trans male. I identified fully as a trans boy when I was like 14 years old. And then when I was like 17, I was like, well, I'm not necessarily pressed to find a label. I mean, I'm still 17, so like I'm transmasculine, let's say. And so I've kind of slowly shifted from, coming out as like fully male and sort of shifting into more of just like the genderless realm of things. I still do identify with he pronouns though. I mean, it feels like, like the shoe fits, but they pronouns are just like the
perfect fit. So he doesn't feel wrong. That's how I explain it to people. I know it can be confusing because they're like, wait, what do you mean you
Especially
use?
older folks.
Yeah, they're like, what do you mean you use more than one pronoun? Like I'm already, like there's the people that are like, I haven't even gotten used to using they, like how am I supposed to use two? And I'm like, okay, you can pick one and then stick with that one. For some people it's easier to say he. So I'm like, you can totally go ahead and call me he. Um, but personally, like I just feel like my gender can't be defined. I really love just being able to sort of like evolve and continue my path of self-discovery.
A bit of a spoiler here. When I watched episode 4, I was sort of waiting for that moment when Gray says, well, being a trans being or something along those lines. And since it's never really addressed, can you give us a little hint of how we're going to understand the transness of Gray?
So yeah, Gray's transness isn't necessarily explicit right away, but I would say that the more time that you spend with him, the more time that you get to know this character, um, there will be signs, and there will be in the future like more explicit conversation. Um, and I think that's wonderful in my opinion because it's just sort of the same way that like meeting any trans person, you wouldn't just right off the bat be like, oh, I'm trans, by the way. Here's my entire transition history. So, you might take some time to get to know someone before diving into sort of the history of their like medical transition, if they have or have not transitioned medically.
I told Blue this last week when I had the privilege of speaking to them. I said, being trans is like the sixth or seventh most interesting thing about me. What would you say are the 5 or 6 more interesting things about you before being trans, Ian?
I would say I am a very creative spirit. I've always had such a um, what some might call an overactive imagination, but I would say it's the perfect amount of active. I love to daydream and fantasize, and I think that makes me an amazing artist. I'm also very empathetic and kind and caring person. I think that that's one thing that I really love about myself is that I'm very gentle and very kind. So while my aesthetic, I mean, I'm wearing like spikes and like all black right now, but like even though my aesthetic seems, I guess, a bit more intimidating, a bit more like hard and edgy, my personality is very soft and gentle. I would say that I'm a very like gentle soul. And some other things I love about myself. I love my fashion sense. I love that I am finally like letting go of like my last little bits of self-judgment and just like fully wearing and doing whatever I want, whatever makes me happy. Because why not?
Right? Why not?
Exactly. I
Oh,
think even just if it's for myself, even if it's just to like dress up and take photos because like I want to feel cute, then like that's great too.
I have a few questions. I asked fans if they had some questions, so I'm going to try in the last few minutes see if we have answers. Helen Carroll, who is a legend in lesbian sports, wants to know if you would go on a date with her.
Like I am honored and I appreciate, but I am very much single right now, very much trying to stay that way. So I respectfully decline.
What's your vision for the future of humans exploring the universe? Asked Sarah Thrace. She wants to know what your vision for the future of humans exploring the universe together would be.
I would love humans to be able to explore space together. I think there is the optimistic part of me that believes that'll be attainable, but there is also like the more realistic part of me that's like these resources will be very limited. They'll be extremely scarce, and so there's going to be like extreme competition for like probably like the richest, strongest, most elite people to be able to go to space. So I think very much like I mean I've seen this actually in Star Trek Discovery, sort of just like the future, a realistic future, in my opinion, is just sort of like the people that do have the resources being able to like explore, and then the people that are sort of like left behind on the planet, sort of like making do with the resources that are left.
Oh, I know that. Rita wants to know, how do you handle the outside negativity that notoriety inevitably brings?
I would say that it is difficult if you're not secure in your sense of self and if you don't have a strong like sense of stability and like love within yourself. If there's so much outside noise, it's really easy to like just get overwhelmed by that. And so what's really kept me just like in touch with myself has been figuring out what makes me happy and trying to define myself based off of what makes me feel good and what makes me feel fulfilled. Um, and not basing that off of what other people might expect of me. And I do often like feel a lot of happiness and comfort in helping other people. But I do also want to focus on helping myself as well.
I was a child actor and I only got into it because my parents thought, well, this is a good way to make extra money. You got into it, I think, because you love acting. But what advice do you have for other trans people who want to follow in your footsteps and become an actor, actress, or someone involved in the arts?
I would say to like just put yourself out there, even if it's like just memorizing monologues that you wrote or like a friend wrote or something and posting it on your Instagram. Like put your acting out there. Like it doesn't have to be in a film or show. You can make a YouTube video making your own movie with a friend, like with an iPhone. Like it's amazing what you can do nowadays. So that would be my best advice, is just like express your creativity. um, Explore your acting in ways that aren't just, because it's easy to wait and be like, oh no, I'm going to wait until I get like training, or I'm going to wait until I get this perfect job, or I'm going to wait until I get this perfect audition. But like, why wait? You can just act now. You can act anywhere at any time. That's the beauty of acting, is that all you need is yourself.
That's awesome. Bobby Glass asked that question. I think I have time for one more. This is from Dr. Bethany Grace Howe at the University of Oregon. She writes that science fiction, notably Star Trek, has always been used to introduce taboo topics to mainstream audiences. This is a multi-part question. Do you feel like transgender identities still fall under this label, taboo topics? Do you think uh, that we are beyond that now, that trans is not a taboo topic? And then she has one more question about broader cultural goals for yourself. But let's just tackle the first two. Is trans a taboo topic? And do you think that it's only through Star Trek and sci-fi that we can really address that?
I would say that unfortunately, like even though there have been so many strides with like progress as far as like trans rights lately, like there still are a great majority of people who don't understand or are not aware of trans people. And so, maybe if they don't understand, they're projecting their fear of the unknown and their hatred onto trans people just as a whole population. Um, and so I would say that, yeah, there still is a lot more that like this whole world has to go, as far as like educating ourselves on like breaking down our own inherent biases about the gender binary, and like trying to be inclusive of all genders, which is a completely foreign concept to some people, is that there's even genders outside of the two.
I had a very nice person say to me, there are as many genders as there are stars in the universe.
That's
Um,
very beautiful. I love
yeah,
that.
yeah, I do too. I think of it often. I get to ask the last question, and it's about, what are you going to do? What do you see yourself doing beyond Star Trek Discovery? I know season 4 is right in front of you, but where is Ian 5 years from now or 10 years from now?
I haven't really tied like myself to a specific thing, because I think everything's so uncertain right now.
Oh boy.
That I'm just like not even planning that far ahead in the future. But I think definitely I want to just be happy doing whatever I'm doing. I really want to find like all of my like niches and sort of like my hobbies that just really make me happy. And I think I'm starting to like really develop that, because I'm like entering my 20s, and like soon, I'm gonna be officially like a young adult rather than a teenager. So that's a big transition. Um, and I just hope that like, whatever city I'm in, whatever job I'm doing, whether it's acting or something else creative, that I am finding ways to express my emotions and express my creativity, and that I'm just happy.
Oh, speaking as an older transitioner, I can only say how jealous we all are that you have this wonderful future ahead of you, but I'm so excited to live vicariously through you. I do a little podcast called the Trans Sporter Room, and we were just curious, do you have any interest in sports whatsoever?
I I'm not a sports person,
I knew.
unfortunately.
I had
I
to ask. You're a fashionista.
thank you for asking. Yeah, I'm a bit more of a theater gay than a sports gay.
The sport of the stage, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to share with our viewers and listeners and readers and all that stuff?
Um, I guess I would just say like a message of positivity because like everyone deserves positivity right now. I hope that wherever you're at right now, that you are finding things that bring you joy in your day-to-day life. And um, if you are like confused or scared or sad, that's okay, and you're not alone. And I'm always like I'm always like on social media if you want to just like shoot me a little message. I might not see it, but at least I will be there in presence.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. And we look forward to seeing you grow and develop in all the mysterious ways that I've seen so far for Gray and for you as a person. All the best. Oh, live long and prosper.
Thank you so much, Dawn.